So we try to go through the horse's horseanality, innate characteristics, learned behavior, spirit. So let's go through innate. Does he look like a walking horse, trotting horse, cantering horse, or a perambulator? Cantering, all right. Does he look like he's long or short? Does he look like he's got a long flight distance or a short one? Yeah, I would say just under medium. Right? He's kind of medium rare, maybe. He's really the ideal horse for, other than the stallion part, for most folks, because he's handsome, he's got nice nature, and he likes to go and he likes to whoa. He likes to do both. He's athletic, he likes to turn and have fun. Interestingly enough, I had some friends of ours that have perambulating horses, and they do bird trials. And I had him ride him all day long. By the end of the day, he was that close to perambulating. Really, he was that close to gating, because you push that walk until it gets faster and faster. And that's one thing I've always prided myself in, is I got horses that walk really fast. All right, innate characteristics. Does he look confident or unconfident? Confident, yeah, pretty confident, huh? Does he look skeptical, unskeptical? Does he look friendly, unfriendly? Pettable, unpettable? Yeah, he's a lovely horse. And trying to find out a horse's horseanality, start with the innate characteristics, then of course the learned behavior. And we're in charge of this learned behavior. And again, like I told you with Smart 7, he's learning now to stay in and have some. If he's going to remain a stallion, which I castrate my colts at 2 days to 2 weeks, I make my decision a long time ahead. The amount, the type of breeding, and even the potential. This horse is by Major Bonanza, one of the leading sires, if not still the leading sire for all-round quarter horses in the world. His mother is by Doc Stebar, one of the top stallions from Doc Bar. She was a performance mare. This pretty nice horse right here. And he's so far almost all of his colts. Caton's horse, Aspen, is by him. Looks very much like him. Stamps that personality, horseanality on it. That's the go, likes to go. Likes to slow stuff. He likes people, but he's also kind of going, okay, I've gone enough. I've had enough. All right. So some horses are, you really want to think about that. Learned behavior. He's learned now to be much more confident around people. All of these kind of things. This was no easy task. This right here, getting him to work, because he had just really had plenty of punishment. And punishment doesn't work for prey animals. But try to get a horse to be several things. I try to get him to be confident, and I try to get him to be curious. Every time I back my horse up, guess what I want him to do? Be curious about what I'm going to ask him to do. If I'm too predictable, there will be no curiosity. So this time I'm going to ask him to go sideways. I want him to think about, I want him to be confident, I want him to be curious, attaboy. These are things that we can do to kind of have fun. Let me play with him just a little bit. Let's look at the innate characteristics, see if he's the kind of horse that what would you do with a horse like this? Got some play in him, don't he? And these are, in case you're wondering, these low panels, these are called the PARELLI playpin by Preferred. And this is a new design I came up with this summer. Whoa! Atta boy, come here. So one of the things we're going to explore during this course as we go through horseanalities, does he seem like a high-spirited or low-spirited horse? Kind of medium, isn't he? Kind of medium spirit, just enough spirit to have fun with. Does anybody have a car that's got a little bit of zip to it, but not too much? Linda's new car. You know, it's not a real hot rod, or a sports car, but it goes pretty good. It turns nice, you know. If you got a Porsche or something like that, I'm sure, you know, put you against the back seat's different. And so this is kind of interesting, but he seems to have a real spirit to play. Woohoo! So we try to identify confidence, lack of confidence. To me, I see a horse here that's got lots of confidence, innately. You know what I mean? Innately confident. He's also has learned to be confident now. Some of the confidence was knocked out of him. Now I want you to see something right here. Is he paying a lot of attention to the ball? Now some horses, especially the sensitive ones, it might be a negative attention. But he doesn't, he's doing all right, he's having fun there. But it's kind of because I'm prompting him, isn't it? You see that? Not that that's bad, it's just I want you to recognize things in horses. Attaboy. Okay, I want you to recognize things in horses. It's not that it's good or bad, just be objective. And then just go, okay, that's what I've got to deal with from the innate characteristics point of view. Now, so I recognized that early on in him. So I thought as a skill, as a learned behavior, I'm going to teach him to play more. Okay? Because it wasn't really natural with him to want to go play with the ball or the barrels or some of these kind of things. And he's a lovely horse. He just loves, can you see it? The lovely nature. How old is he? I believe that he's about 115,000 hours old. He's a nice horse. Let's see if I can get on him without poking my... He's the kind of horse that, even with a lot of play in him, he's the kind of horse that really you can have a lot of fun with. From his character, from his innateness. He's the kind of horse that loves to do things and loves to do things with you, for you. Let's go. He doesn't love to do too much. That's good. Let's go. Like I said, he doesn't love to do too much. Who thinks they could have a lot of fun with a horse like this? Huh? You have to push him more than you have to. I don't ride him very often. This is kind of Caton's horse now. Let me have a carrot stick here. Terry, can you grab me one of those? There we go. Thanks. Perfect. Okay, Jose. Counter canter. Left lead. Counter canter. Left lead. He's a nice horse. Let's give him a nice hand, okay? So he's kind of middle of the road, but I wanted you to see some of the stallion behaviors at the same time. When you interrupt those patterns, that's where people get in trouble. And so these very nice natured, gentle beasts, you got to remember they're just as dependable as pet rattlesnakes. Please understand that. And always respect that. It's not that you would or wouldn't play with a stallion. It's that you would understand what you've really got at hand. And I think a lot of people, they get hurt with nature when they don't understand what they've got at hand. All right, we've got another horse here. Her name is Nova. She's an alpha kind of mare, maybe a little bit. The horses all call her Bossa Nova anyway. I've noticed that. She's hopefully going to be next year Supernova. So start thinking to yourself, what's her innate characteristics? Is she long? Is she short? Or how do we say it? Hot-blooded or cold-blooded? Is she sensitive? Not so sensitive? Skeptical? Not so skeptical? Confident? Not so confident? Curious? Not so curious? Start thinking about those main ingredients. Go for it, girl. Does she, of course, then you try to recognize learned behavior. And then spirit, low, medium, high. Okay. Any guesses? What's your feeling on her confidence? Not confident. Right? What makes you think not confident? Because she's what? Okay, so she's trying to. It looks like she's like trying to. Yeah, somebody. Where's the border collie? Okay, it's interesting. Anybody else have any observations on confidence, not confident? Ears are kind of flicking back and forth. She's a little more trying to check things out. Heads up more. Very good. Heads up! Yeah. Yeah, she's not going anywhere. Blinking, so she's thinking. Okay. Good. What about sensitive? Sensitive, not so sensitive, dull? Very sensitive? What makes you say that? Mm-hmm. So you saw timidity, and then that lack of confidence, and sensitive. Those things oftentimes go hand in hand, don't they? Yeah. Good. And you could see, like with Liberty, was he real sensitive horse? Like when I tried to get him to go, I was smiling with all four cheeks, I was squeezing with all, and spanking with my hand, right? So these are the kind of things that. All right. Anything else? What about spirit level? Hard to tell, huh? Low to medium, okay. All right. There's no way to be wrong here. We're just talking, okay? There's no way to be wrong or right or anything like that. All right, kind of come on in, nice, sweet. When I first started, I used to just use round corrals for lunging the excess energy off of a horse and for riding young horses in because it was not as dangerous. I thought, I've gotten hurt in a round corral riding young horses more than I ever have outside. You know why? Because I thought the round corral was going to keep me safe. It's like if you're out swimming and you think the lifeguard's going to keep you safe, and you don't know how to swim, could be sadly mistaken. I thought the small area would keep me. I've heard people say things like, I get on a horse for the first time on cement because the horse won't buck on something slippery. I've honestly had people that told me that's their method. It's amazing. Wives' tales. Mythology, bovine fecal matter. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Okay, walking horse, trotting horse, cantering horse, perambulating horse. Trotting horse? What breed is she? Okay, so what would that be? More cantering horse. All right. Yeah.
What kind of breed?
Andalusian thoroughbred cross. Yeah, they're made. 3 beats, strong diagonal in the canter. Most cantering horses, not all, but most cantering horses are made to turn and do things like that. Some aren't. Thoroughbreds, for example, don't turn. They're more like dragsters. Athletic, unathletic. Sensitive. Very sensitive. A lot of good learned behavior, not so much learned behavior.
Are you referring to sensitivity?
No, learned behavior. Does she have learned behavior? Is she a knowledgeable horse?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we're looking at 4 things, aren't we? We're looking at innate characteristics, learned behavior, environmental things, spirit. What else? So we're low, medium, high spirited. Starting to see some spirit there? Yeah, this is a lot of horse right here. You don't just get on her bareback and just say, "Come on, let's go," because she never hardly ever asks, "When do we gonna stop?" Yegua bonita. What does that mean? Beautiful mare. Yegua bonita. Okay, more golden wool. See how much energy that took? Forwardaholic. Doesn't like to move her feet. Yeah. Looks for leadership. Leadership's important to her. Kid's horse. He's trying to get rid of some of the kids. Smart horse, dumb horse. Yeah, very sharp. Might not say smart and not smart, but smart or dull. You know, some horses are. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot under the hood there in there.
Pat, do you want to tell the story of when we bought her?
Yeah. trying to think. This had to be about 1996 when we bought it.
Seven or eight.
7 or 8, somewhere in there. When we just, because we were in Pagosa a year or two, and we were up in Canada. I'm trying to think of the name of the place where we were. It's not Black Forest, but it's something like that.
Didn't it start with C?
Huh?
Not that it's that important.
Yeah.
It started with C or something. I mean.
Yeah, it could be. And real horsey area. And we heard about this Andalusian farm. And we were looking for new horses for Linda. And we went out there and they had a stallion. What was his name?
Furioso.
Glorioso?
Furioso.
Furioso. And they were trying to go to the Olympics or I don't know, do something like that, all this fancy stuff. Kind of fancy schmancy stuff. So we went and looked at all the horses and we went out in the pasture and these guys were 2-year-olds, coming 3, something like that. And Linda saw this one and went, ooh, that's what I want. I said, no, that's not what you want. You want that one. Because there was another mare, half-sister, named River, who was a lot more like Liberty. And I was trying to convince Linda to get out of picking horses like she did husbands. And I wanted her to try some medium-spirited horses. So anyway, turns out the people didn't want to sell this one because the other sisters that they'd sold them to, the people had gotten in trouble and got hurt, and the horse was wasted or slaughtered or something. So and I'm not sure they knew really who we were or what we could do, but so we fiddled around, and they were pretty smart horse salesmen. So they said, because we were going back and forth, and we were going to buy one for sure. They said, do this. Take them both home, back to Colorado from Canada, and send back the one that you don't want. Well, that was a very good sales pitch. Pretty hard to send them back after you've taken them home. So the basically we were able to get this mare for a lot less because they really had nowhere to go with a mare like this. This mare does not fit very many people at all. What's that? She was to clip her, to load her, touch her. I mean, she was extreme. And so Linda had this rule that she made for herself, and the rule is, if it's my horse, I'm the only one that gets to play with it. So anyway, 5 years later, we decided, well, we better get him halter broke. Because, we were both busy traveling and riding level 1 and then level 2 and then level 3 and then new level, and this was just going on and on and on. And newsletter, this was back in the days where there was Linda and I, and then there was me and Linda, and then there was Linda and then me, and we would take turns, and sleeping, standing up, and all that stuff. So finally I said, look, why don't we get these guys going and go. So okay, well, you can go with River. So I gave River to one of my apprentices, and we got her going a little bit. And this mare was really, really extreme. And I mean, she bucked like crazy when we started her. She just, everything was just really challenging. So then we bred both the mares and had beautiful foals out of them, and by Casper. And I'm not sure how smart that was, but her foal is named Jazz, and she's black, looking really nice. And then the other foal, Maggie, is kind of a gray. But anyway, nice horses. Maggie. I'm not going to ride a horse named Magnolia, darling. Nor am I going to ride one named Jasmine. Go look at my board over. It says Jazz and Maggie. So anyway, one thing led to another. So finally, River was doing really good and doing lots of things, but this mare just kind of kept on a lot of nothing. Several years had passed, and finally I just couldn't stand it. I said, let me have that horse. let me do something. So
Actually, that's not entirely correct. No, this
that's
is really
entirely
important.
enough.
No, but this is really important because Pat hadn't had really anything to do with these horses, and you know, top-level students were playing with them, and I'd by that time gotten more addicted to warm bloods than, you know, than Andalusian crosses. And one day I was watching Katia play with her, and I just thought, gosh, that horse is spectacular. And I said to Pat, have you ever really watched that horse? Or have you ever played with it? And he was like, oh, no, not really. And I said, well, why don't you do a demo, you know, for your uni students with her? And just, you know, kind of this demo to do a little assessment on her horsenality. Well, he played with her. About 5 minutes later, he went, wow! He said, this is a cool horse. And he
Yes,
said,
very
"I
much
really..."
like magic. Reminded me of magic.
Yeah, magic without the baggage.
Yeah.
Just raw trouble. And he said, well, there's one, he said, before I take her on, he said, I want to ride her because she's got to feel right, and then I'll make the decision. And he came back at the end of
I
that.
haven't quit riding her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just went, right, my barn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
She's a spectacular horse. Like,
And last winter I got
She's
to
gonna
play
be
with
one
her
of
quite a bit.
the super
This summer
horses.
quite a bit. And that's about it. So that's where I'm at. And she's really starting to do some nice things. And as we were talking this morning, this horse took a lot of horse taming. A lot of horse taming. Liberty didn't take a lot of horse taming. And Linda's going to do some interesting things, I think. We're going to do some things right now. Let's just see what goes on here. Yeah. This horse's name is Allure. And I thought we'd take him fishing one day, but he wouldn't fit in the tackle box. At any rate, this horse originally was born in Czechoslovakia. So if you want to know why the accent, it's... And we were in France, just outside of Paris, and at a friend's place, and we were looking for horses all over the planet, evidently. I thought we were just looking. I didn't know we were buying, but we were. So pretty soon, this horse came out, and Linda started drooling, salivating. I looked around to see if Pavlov had rung a bell, but no, shut's luck. So she was, this horse alluring to her, I guess. So Dr. Miller was there the day we were there, actually.
he vetted him.
He vetted him. And you didn't follow his advice. And
Said, well, apart from the 20 splints he's
Yeah.
got.
so anyway, we started talking to our friend. How long had the horse been there at their place?
2 days.
2 days. So he'd just been from Czechoslovakia. Hardly could speak French at all. He was there 2 days. So we started putting the deal together, and we finally got him flown over here after the check cleared. And we started to find out what we had. And thus the story starts. Linda said one time that after she'd had 2 warm bloods, she goes, I get it. She'd heard all my stories about mules and how you must treat a mule like you should treat a horse, and how you really can't force them to do anything. And she said that I get it. Warm bloods are the mules of the horsedom. A lot of people call, because a lot of people call warm bloods, they'll call them derogatory names like dumb bloods or dull bloods, and a lot of times these warm bloods are actually a trotting and cantering horse cross. And there are hot-blooded trotting horses, as well as cold-blooded trotting horses. And same thing with the galloping horses or cantering horses. It's interesting. A lot of languages don't have a word for canter or lope. It's just gallop or gallop. They call them both the same. There is a differentiation between the canter and the gallop, but it's another story. And we found out that the horse had been sedated to get to load on the airplane. And and I think even the transport to get on the trailer to go to the airplane. So anyway, does he look confident or unconfident?
Too confident.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in that environment. And it's an interesting thing how you can go, innate characteristics, learned behavior, and then we said environment. Because sometimes you can change these horses' environments. And this is why we wanted to stay out of the corral, because a lot of times we're doing things that, and the horses are, think that they're doing the right thing or accidentally go over somewhere. So we want you to really get to you observe horses when they're not being interfered with in their natural environment, in a pasture with other horses. And just even situations like this, just see the kind of things that a horse is apt to do. Does he look sensitive or dull?
Sensitive.
Kind of dull and sensitive, yeah.
That's him.
That's him. Does he look Jekyll or Hyde?
Which is the bad one?
Both.
Does he look like? Does he look confident or unconfident? Yeah. Right now he looks confident. But he can be both. Does he like to go or not go?
Go.
Yeah, he likes to be busy, doesn't he? There. Now that's a good. There's a good. He loves to be busy. Loves to be busy.
In California at the tour stop in LA, I was playing with Rem and just turned him loose, and I was on for 2 hours, and he never stopped playing for 2 hours. Just like the ball, he popped a ball.
He popped the ball?
Yeah, he
Popped a ball.
laid on it. He tortured the ball for about an hour, and then he popped it.
How did he react when the ball popped?
He went, damn.
Yeah, he didn't spook or anything. He just hung his lip and walked to me. It was like the whole audience was like, oh, he lost his plaything. He killed his plaything. That's right. So he's not very interested in that right now. People are more interested.
Which way did he
People
go?
are more interesting. This was a.
I said, why don't you
Go in.
go have a play?
This horse has taught me a lot, because when I saw him, he was in a little paddock, and all I could see was this horse leaping in the air, and it was like as if it was chasing butterflies. And I just watched him playing, and I went, oh, I love a play drive in horses, because Rema had already showed me a lot of that. And I asked them about the horse, and they said, oh, that's Catherine's new horse, and he only arrived 2 days ago, and he is a half-brother to her Trakehner stallion, who was one of the top 17 Trakehners in the country, in Europe, they said. And this was a half-brother. And I watched him, being lunged, and he was just spectacular. I mean, he was over the top. While they were trying to lunge him. But, of course, on adrenaline, his paces were just magnificent. I was just drooling. I was like, Pat, can I buy that horse? And Pat's like, oh, well, if that's really what you want. And Dr. Miller didn't know what I saw in this horse. But he vetted him for me and said, yeah, well, you know, everything's basically fine. He's just got, like, he literally had about 5 or 6 splints on him. And he was a completely different color. Some of you have known him over the year and a half or so that I've had him. This could be an ex-ball pretty soon. But we'll sacrifice a ball just for you to watch what goes on.
That's why he popped the last ball with a sharp nail on his.
Yeah. And, I mean, I just loved his paces and his look. And his health wasn't very good. You know, he had a frizzy mane, and he was kind of a yellow, funny color, and he had all these splints. And just little by little, he's been getting healthier, and, you know, all his physical parts changing. But the interesting thing was that as he got healthier, he felt better. And I suddenly realized what I had, which was something way beyond my capacity to deal with. And like for Pat, this would not be that much of a challenge. But for me, you know, he is way beyond anything that I've ever dealt with. Firstly, because he's confident, he's left brain, he's very athletic, he's very smart, he's bored easily. And he can also get on adrenaline pretty quick. He's quite hot-blooded, high-spirited, and very playful. Did I say that already? He's an imitator. And he didn't show any of that side of him when we saw him in France. And basically it was because they just kind of, you know, kept him under control the whole time, or tried to. And when they rode him, you know, his mouth was strapped shut, and they didn't have a martingale on him, but they rode him and kept him like really on a tight rein. And so what I'd seen in him moving freely suddenly was the opposite when he was being ridden. And I thought, oh, well, that doesn't matter. I know that you know, as soon as you stop suppressing him, he'll move like I saw on the lunge. And what I didn't know was how much he could buck. He's very athletic. I mean, I've seen him buck, you know, where his feet are above my head. And the thing that I noticed as soon as the first time I came to see him was when he was here, because he arrived before we arrived here. And I opened the gate, and he didn't want to be caught, so he ran away. And then he would stand over in a corner and kind of suck on his tongue and just go really introverted. And I'll show you some of this tomorrow when we talk more in detail about introversion and extroversion. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew it was a displaced behavior. So I knew he was kind of stressed and went introverted. But I didn't know how extreme it was. It was almost borderline catatonic. And then he got to where he would only do that when you put the halter on him or when you tied him up. And now, through his development, he basically hardly ever does that, except when I give him a cookie. That somehow that triggers the same kind of endorphin activity that he would get when he became catatonic. But I said to Pat, you know, here's a horse that's already under saddle. He was 3.5. He hadn't had much riding. You know, he'd had 2 months of dressage training and about 2 years of lunge work. And I didn't realize how much that had done to him. For him to be tied down with his head strapped, his mouth strapped shut, that's what just blew him up in his brain. And he went introverted to try and cope with that. So then, of course, what I'm trying to do is bring him out of it. And when he comes out of it, I mean, he's so spectacular, I can't ride him. And I said to Pat, you know, I kind of changed my story a bit then. Went on a bit. But I said to Pat, I think this would be a great horse because it's already going and I can ride him and I could take him to level 3 very quickly. I learned never to say things like that because right now we're still kind of working on level 2 concepts riding, early level 2. But he's up around early level 3, mid level 3 in his ground skills. And he's made enormous changes, you know, just in his respect system. And he's the kind of horse that when you ride him, because he gets bored so easily, if you take him on a trail or go do something, you're usually pretty safe. But in an arena is where you get bucked off. Because if you're not provocative enough for him, he just goes, "Well, I'll make my own fun." And when he bucks, I mean, I've been bucked off of him twice, really hard. The good news is that when he bucks, he catapults you up. He doesn't frap you. So you go straight up. And the first time he bucked with me, he shot me straight up in the air. And I still remember my feet touching the saddle. And one of our students who was riding a very big horse was next to me. And I just remember her looking up to me and her going, "Oh my God!" And then I came down, I'm still right over him. So like it was all suspension. And I came down in the saddle just a little bit crooked and I knew he was going to go again. And so I then jumped off. And actually maybe that's the only time I've been bucked off. Oh no, another one was in front of Pat. On a tour stop in...
Buffalo, New York.
I knew you'd remember. Buffalo, New York. And everything was going great and I thought I'll just take him for one more trot around the campers. And I came through in this super trot because he's just the most amazing mover. And I'm like all involved in that. Wow, this feels great. And Pat was sitting under the eaves just like strumming his guitar or something. And he went, "That looks great, babe." And about 2 seconds later, bang! He bucked so hard. I don't even know what happened, but I ended up skidding on my back for about 20 feet.
That's when I said it was great.
Oh, that was it. And Art and Letitia were there, and I think John and Cammie, and they all held up numbers, you know, like 7, 9. And then I realized, you know, that I just kept getting lulled into a false sense of security, thinking that everything was all right. But actually, that was just the calm before the storm. So I've learned a lot about what happens before what happens. And this curiosity and playfulness is just fantastic. And so I keep imagining how that's going to be, you know, as he develops. And how to keep that in him, you know, and not suppress it. Because why he went introverted was because everything was being suppressed. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And that's his naturalness. So, see what I can do with him. Liberty is not our strong point yet.
Can you put your mic closer?
Yep, thanks. We're not really strong on Liberty yet unless I warm him up very well on line first, which I have not done. So the idea here is not to try and impress you with his Liberty, but just to watch him as he, you know, as he moves and the kinds of things that he's apt to do. Hey, cutie. Can somebody just reach over and take that ball out of there?
Mind your ears.
Yeah, mind your everything. He's very curious with his mouth. In fact, he used to bite really badly, you know, just come at you. And now he just like wants to put his lips on you and then kind of seduce your fingers into his mouth. But he can look like he's kind of dull, but then, you know, okay, go that way. Like here, he's just kind of like, ho hum, ho hum. But when his life comes up, I mean, he gets really big. And he's really smart. It's like if I teach him something new, he's got it. It's like, okay, next. And he used to, when I first got him, because so much of how he'd been trained was, you know, the whip behind him, see, like that. And he was real forwardaholic. Once he started going, it was like he really didn't think about stopping. And he had this really big, expressive trot, but I didn't notice for the longest time that his eyes were kind of glazed over. And he'd just get out there and glaze over and put his head down and just do this big trot. And I didn't know that there was something wrong until one day I was playing a circling game and I just happened to end up at some barrels that were lying on the ground. And he didn't see the barrels until his nose just about touched them because he was just down here doing a big trot. And when he got to the barrels, he absolutely freaked. I mean, you would have thought that somebody had just reached out and smacked him on the head. He jumped back, reared up, tore a 22-foot rope out of my hand, and ran to the other side of the arena. We were on tour somewhere. Ran to the other side of the arena and stood there shaking. And that's when I realized, like I'm going, ooh, wow, yum, when I watch him trot, but I didn't realize his brain wasn't even there. And so then my whole thing became about how do I keep him conscious when I'm playing with him? And don't let him get introverted. That's where he loses confidence, like in spots like that. But his life comes up really strong, and he's not scared like Nova was, to see her where she's really insecure. He just gets on adrenaline, and then he doesn't think in another way. So you can see his uncertainty there where he's looking out and his gait kind of changes and stuff like that. Getting him to slow down, like make transitions, again, he's more like Nova. He wants to keep moving rather than slow down and stop. And the first few times I tried to stop him, it was like trying to stop a bulldozer. I mean, he just set his jaw and powered through everything. So like right now, he's kind of lost his confidence, just because I haven't prepared him properly for this. And what else was I going to tell you about him? There. So he's just a really, really interesting horse. And and the thing that makes him complex for me is the fact that he goes from left brain to right brain very quickly. He's got a high spirit, he's strong, and he's very athletic. And so having that all in the one package makes it extremely challenging. But it's great because I've learned so much from him. You can see there, see how he looks everywhere except at me? And yet before he was up with everybody when it was his idea. So getting his confidence and his respect and keeping that all together is what makes this horse really fascinating for me. And then he's teaching me a lot, like when I ride him, just the feel, because he moves so naturally and so beautifully, teaching me to explore how to get other horses to move like that.
The big thing, I think, the interesting thing is that a horse like this is very confident in this little round corral. This horse can get very unconfident very quickly. And he probably never was raised in a big pasture, in a big place where he could go and run and really do things. And even since we've owned him, he's always stayed in Linda's little pastures. And these are some things that would really, from an environment point of view, if you're going to raise your perfect partner and the things you're going to do, part of it is also controlling the environment or making sure that he gets the exposure to those kind of environments. And that's why, anybody ever heard of a horse that's an arena horse? People just say, and that kind of tells you that you don't go outside. Well, that's the environment, exposure, and you can do it with them being raised, or you can do it through exposure. But you can see this could be a real fun kind of horse, or it could be a frustrating kind of horse, because these are the kind of horse. This weekend I had a horse, was what we call the ever popular Belgian Appaloosa Cross, a Belgialusa or something I think they called it, and he came in like a scared terror, and just 15 or 20 minutes he was walking around there all interested and curious like this and wanting to push the ball with his nose, and they couldn't do anything. Couldn't get the ball close to him. They couldn't get him in the trailer. They couldn't get him out of the trailer. If they got him in the trailer, they could, but in just a few different tactics. These kind of horses, and the girl said the horse really frustrates her because he just thinks way quicker than she does. And some people need slower thinking horses. These kind of horses here, they're not the kind of go and relax and just have, this is the kind of horse that it's a challenge. And it's a fun challenge if you're up to it. But if you want a horse that's just going to go pooty scoot around in the forest, that takes a different kind of horse. So why don't we bring a different kind of horse in? Let's give Allure a nice thank you for being here. Yeah, and you can see that mouth and that sort of thing. That's an indication of a curious horse too. A horse that really wants to play and think. Mouthy horses are. If I wanted a trick horse or like a horse in a circus or horses to do demonstrations with, that's the kind of horse to get. Because you can see he's volunteering to go over there and get on that pedestal, volunteering to go play with the ball, It's like dogs that volunteer to play with frisbees and stuff like that.
He's the first one at the gate now. Or, I mean, it has been for about a year. But, he sees me coming or hears me calling, and he's there first. And then I get Remmer, he's like, wanted to play.
And you can also tell by Linda's lead rope. It's the reason we have to have this program, just to afford the lead ropes. Okay, our next horse we're going to bring in is a horse called Little George. And I don't know how he got a name. We have another horse named George, and so someone came up with a brilliant idea of saying, he's the same color as the other George, so let's call him George. That's why I like to name things now. Just put that chain around there once for me, Lila. See the difference? Confident or unconfident? Okay. There's an interesting thing. With a horse like this, would you use this tool? Not very effectively, yeah. You'd be doing a lot of work. With a horse like him or like with that horse, would it work? Yeah. How about Liberty? No. So sometimes, some horses, this little plastic bag is a very effective tool. More effective than the string on the end and vice versa. So it's an interesting thing. There is no pat answer. There is no, this is how you do it. You adjust to fit the situation. And the horse is the situation. People have opinions, horse is the fact. But horses have opinions that don't always match with facts either. Isn't that right? Has anybody ever seen a horse that thought a piece of plastic that size would kill them? They were that scared that they thought it was going to kill them? Has anybody ever had a horse get so afraid of something that you could feel his heart pounding through the saddle? Okay, those are that's when the opinion doesn't match up with the fact. It's his opinion that's going to hurt him or kill him. I'm going to chuck that ball in there. Just shut your eyes and throw it in. It don't matter where. Just give it a big throw. Huh. Look at that. This horse right here is worth his weight in gold. He is worth his weight in gold. We need to have, if we had a pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid needs to be full of horses like George. The top of the pyramid needs to be horses like Nova and Magic and Casper. Toward the top, horses like Allure. In the middle, maybe horses like Liberty. Lots of them. You know what I mean? You need lots of horses to. This is I think it might be Kelly's uncle. He's a great horse for confidence. He's a lovely horse. He likes to be with people. He likes to do things. But at the same time, if you wanted to have a reining horse or a cutting horse or some kind of performance horse, you might be frustrated with a horse like that or disappointed. And today, what happens is a lot of people tend to get horses either for the second time in their life or the first time in their life, mid-30s and beyond. And what happens is we want to buy a nice horse. And nice horses are registered or unregistered. You know, I know, but I'm not talking about what people do. They're usually registered horses, and registered horses are usually, well, hot-blooded or cold-blooded. Hot-blooded. So people end up buying Ferraris. How many people think it's not a good idea to buy a 16-year-old kid a Ferrari or a Porsche or a ZX something or other? Vroom vroom. So we buy nice horses. And what's missing are a lot of horses like Liberty and like this horse. There's really a missing horse today because what happens is the market is dictated by performance people. You know, very few people say, come breed to my stallion, he's gentle and real good trail riding horse anymore. Everybody's got, oh no, my horse. He's one time was stabled next to a horse that saw the dog walker that was the horse that used to lead Seabiscuit. People love to brag about their horses' pedigrees, don't they? They hate it when the horse acts like their pedigree. Especially if they're novice riders, unconfident riders, young riders, riders in the autumn of their life. Okay, so now let's just play a little game here. So I'm going to play a game with George here, okay? Okay, let's go. I tried to tag him, didn't I? I tried to tag him. So now I'm going to play the neutral game. And the game I'm going to play with him is, whenever you want me to do that again, just trot. Because as soon as you trot, I'm going to run backwards, you're going to turn, and I'm going to run into this spot, and I'm going to try to get you again. So just tell me when you want to play that game. Did I get him? Dang right I did. So the less I do, the more he'll do. This is the kind of horse that will get you to work so hard. I've seen people just look like they were whacking a camel going backwards, trying to ride him. Just going nowhere. The more they... Now let's just make the turn here. Watch me look at him. Oh, he wasn't going to get close enough to me to get a chance. So now, you see him looking and asking questions now? Is that a different George? All right, now, here's the secret. He's a pretty confident kind of horse, isn't he? We want him to have confidence. We want him to have curiosity. We want him to be sensitive. Is he more sensitive now than he was a while ago? Okay, so now, confidence comes through consistency. All right? Curiosity comes from variety. So now, what am I going to do? You ready? I'm going to send him back there. Is he more sensitive? And now I'm going to send him out there and I'm going to say, that's all. He's like, what does this guy? Because most people, what do? They send the horse back. They go right or left, right? So the horse goes. That's probably what he's going to do. And there's a lot of things I could do here to create curiosity. Standing here, not talking to him is one. Because when I turn and look at him, he's like, well, now what do you want, sir? Okay? Now, if I keep playing the game too hard, I'm going to get him to where he's not confident. Okay? Then, I might have, here's something to really blow him away. Ready? Watch this. I went to him. He's thinking, he's going, oh, these guys, they always do this. Oh, it must be 7 games in the round corral time again. Okay? And so I want him to be confident. And so there's certain things that I do for that. I want him to be curious, but he's got to be sensitive. Now watch how I might get him to be sensitive. Has anybody ever been swatted in the face by a horse's tail? Have you ever thought, was that an accident? How many people know it was not an accident? No more than it should be for you to be an accident. So the way to get a horse sensitive is you trusted to respond, but you're ready to correct. Not more one than the other. Now can you see him pushing against me? He's going, Dad, can we just be kind of good together? So here we go. I trusted that he would respond, but I was ready to correct. This is going to be one of your hardest things. I'll bet you Jesse's new pickup that this is going to be one of the hardest things for most humans to get a hold of, is to trust that they'll respond but be ready to correct. Not more one than the other. We've got to be particular without being critical. And what we have to do is we have to learn something called preparatory commands. In the Army they say, company, forward. That's all preparatory commands. And they don't mean go yet. Okay? And then you say, march. And the cha is the command of execution. So we have to have these real at ease. Preparatory command. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And then the neutral. So here's one of the ways that I do neutral. I drag the stick, holding it there. When I'm playing the stick to me game, which is one of the forms of the driving game, watch when I stop. When I stop, you'll see the stick. And I'm going to stop and I'm going to back up. Watch what the stick does. The stick, watch it again. If I walk, it will go forward with me. If I stop and back up, look what the stick will do. I didn't have to pick it up and put it there. It's automatically there. That's a neutral for walking backwards. I'm not doing anything with the stick other than holding it in a neutral position. So these are some of the little nuances that you're going to learn there. And so I play the game. Don't make me use the stick. Horses have got long bodies, humans have got tall bodies. A story I didn't get to tell you this morning was how I got started with this kind of a thinking, and it was all due to Troy Henry. And Troy Henry was a great horseman, particularly a performance horseman. Just an intelligent derriere over there. No, someone got it. Mr. Henry, first time I met him, I said, hello, I'm Pat PARELLI. He said, oh yeah, I know who you are, son. He didn't even stick his hand out to shake. I said, you do? He said, yeah, I heard all about you. I said, what'd you hear? And he says, I heard you couldn't train a field mouse to jump in a grain sack. And I was right. He was right, man. So he said, blah, blah, blah. Went through some things. Went out to the round corral. He said, do you know how to lunge a horse to corral? I said, yes, sir. Horse just like this, waiting in the corral. He said, you'll find a little thing like that, a little PVC pipe with several weapons in it. He said, choose your weapon there, buddy. I said, okay, I went in and found what I wanted. Got in there. We're standing in there. I walked in the gate. He went up, had a little platform. He'd stand up there and watch me down in there. I walked in there and I went, okay. And there I was running around trying to get that horse to go in a circle, and him up there just guffawed. Oh, he just said, try the other way. I ran the other way. Oh my God. So he shared with me. He shared with me how to start playing with horses of various natures, various degrees of tameness. He wasn't really a horse tamer, Troy. I got most of that from Ronnie Willis and Tom Dorrance. The hands-on stuff. But Troy was really good about this thing called neutral. He said, you got to learn how to be neutral. Instead of standing there like, you notice most people, they stand around and got their stick in their hand there, looking around there like that. Or they stand still and then they give it the Linda Blair. Old Chinese saying, horse, when in circle, disappears on your right shoulder, will soon reappear on the left shoulder. Stand still and allow him to come around. I want you to shut your eyes. Shut your eyes. Listen. You're going to listen for when he changes his... Oh, it happened already. Can you hear the difference? Look up. See the difference. Now he's got his hindquarters in sync with what we've got going. Before he was cow cantering, disunited. Now, I'm going to ask him to slow down. Go ahead and look and watch now. Watch me. I'm going to look at him. Ask him to slow down, but I didn't want that much. I wanted a trot, so watch how I might do this. I've never played with this horse in a corral, by the way. Not that much. He said, you got to be able to play with the horse and make him feel right. Let him know you don't want him to do that. Don't want him to do that. You put that energy in front of him to slow him down. You put that energy behind him. This was so amazing to me. I was just blown away. And what he could get horses to do in the round crowd. He had horses like Liberty and Casper, and Troy would go like this when he wanted his horse to spin. Like you saw me spin those horses, he would go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That was 3.5 spins. And he'd go the other way. That's all he would do. And he just had it so much experience, had it figured out. And little things about what happens before what happens. And getting it to where you can read the horse, read the situation. But most of the time, it's hard to read when you're jogging, isn't it? So that means that most people are moving around so much that they can't read the situation because we got so much commotion going on inside of our own selves. So this neutral thing started becoming a big thing for me. And then I started getting to where I could really get those horses to where they would, when I got their attention, they said, I know you're going to ask me to do one of those 6 things or so that I know how to do. Which one is it? And if they would overdo one thing, then I'd start doing another. So it's all pretty simple stuff. It's not necessarily easy because we humans are predators. And if we live long enough, we become adults. And adults are human beings who practice making simple things difficult. And this is natural. It's simple stuff. And it's really fascinating stuff and fun. And every one of these horses has got their own horsenality based on, you tell me, innate characteristics, learned behavior, environment, and spirit. And if we can have the horse to where he's confident but curious and sensitive, and what our goal is to point out to you when you're doing things that are causing the horse to become dull, not sensitive, causing the horse to become bored because it's too consistent, causing the horse to be unconfident because there's too much variety, or you're not given the signals clear enough. And this is kind of what this is all about. The program to help your level of savvy to rise, to know when to be, where to be, why to be, what to do when you get there, when to quit doing what you're doing. And right about now is time for me to quit doing what I'm doing. Linda?
Yep.
It's about where I think I've done enough, said enough. Don't want these people to get brain blisters or paralysis of analysis on the first day. Have we done quite a bit today? Yeah. Yeah. You can clap, it's all right. Yeah, I know you want to, that's good.